Just at that moment, someone shouted, "The 8 noble clans are here." The cultivators on the many peaks immediately broke out in chatter. The 8 noble clans are finally here. In every 5-nation youth competition, they would monopolize the top 8 ranks. I wonder if it would be the same this year. There probably will not be much change. Even the super geniuses of the great Jin nation's 10 great sects have given up. Who else would be able to change that? That is hard to say. In this pool of geniuses, there are many who came from the boundless sea. I heard that the Eastern Sea's little dragon king, Xuanyuan Zontian, is very powerful. He has already become an invincible half-step martial monarch. The cultivators of the great Jin nation were unconvinced. They said, "Invincible half-step martial monarch. That is because he has not met the scions of the 8 noble clans. He would not be able to defeat any one of them, much less the Sima clan, which has already monopolized the first rank for 3 consecutive competitions." The Sima clan's Sima Lingxuan obtained the first rank in the previous 5-nation youth competition. If he can defend his position this year, then the Sima clan will obtain their 4th consecutive first rank. 8 warships, side by side, flew over from the distance. They were the Sima, Bai, Li, Qian, Wang, Wang, Nangong, and Beiming clans. These were the warships belonging to the 8 noble clans with martial emperor ancestors. The people of the 8 noble clans were very talented and strong. Even the 10 great sects of the great Jin nation could not compare to them. The moment the 8 noble clans appeared, the excitement of the entire ring of peaks reached its climax. Everyone knew that when the 8 noble clans arrived, the first stage would start. Who could obtain the rights to step onto the Wind Cloud Arena? The answer would be known soon. All participants, please wear your dragon-shaped jade pendant. I will count back from 10 and the qualifiers will officially begin. A few minutes later, a resonant voice rang out from Dragon Sealing City. The voice was reinforced with quintessence, allowing all the cultivators in the large ring of peaks to hear it clearly. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. As the countdown began, the clamor in the peaks stopped. The place became deathly quiet, no one spoke a word. There was only the sound of wind and the countdown. All the cultivators focused themselves. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The instant the countdown finished, all the participants from the ancient desolate land, boundless seas, barbarian tribes, and the 5 great nations in the towers moved. Shoo, shoo, shoo. The sound of air breaking sounded continuously as cultivators quickly rushed to the center of Dragon Sealing City. Young cultivators jumped off the towers and filled the skies in all directions. A dark cloud made up of cultivators spread throughout the air. There were at least 10,000 people. After waiting for years, bitterly cultivating for days and nights, all the outstanding talents under this sky made their move on this very day, at this very moment. Xiao Chen was in no rush to jump down. As he calmly watched the excited expressions of the outstanding talents, his heart was as still as water. Under the influence of countless young disciples, the endless dark clouds above Dragon Sealing City roiled continuously. A strong wind blew and dark clouds churned. Soon, resonant dragon roars came from the dark clouds. The dragon roars shook the heaven and earth, glorious and world-shattering. An imposing atmosphere assaulted the senses of the cultivators on the spectator platforms. As the clouds roiled and the grand atmosphere pressed heavily on everyone, an ancient and dignified aura spread throughout the mountains and the air solidified. Pooh! Suddenly, a small piece broke off from the boundless dark clouds. A beam of resplendent golden light tore through space as it descended. Normally, Dragon Sealing City was very dark, there would not be any sunlight. The thick, dark clouds in the sky had not dispersed for several millennia. However, at this instant, golden light descended on it. Immediately, someone in the crowd exclaimed, "That golden light is a divine light from the upper realm, the Kunlun realm." Such a phenomenon did not happen in the previous 5-nation youth competition. Indeed, it is a divine light. In the previous age of geniuses, there was this phenomenon as well. It looks like the era of geniuses has truly arrived. The vast auras of the 10,000-odd geniuses have attracted the attention of the upper realm. According to rumor, the people who rank highly in this 5-nation youth competition have a chance to enter the upper realm and become a martial monarch. This looks like it is true. The intense fight over the 400 dragon pillars had already started. Every pillar had 30 to 40 geniuses fighting over it. The scene was very tragic. For the sake of the 400 spots, everyone used their full power. Everyone knew what this 5-nation youth competition meant. If they missed out on this opportunity, they would only be side characters in this era of geniuses, regretting it forever. As for the 10 tallest dragon pillars in the center, at this moment, they were very quiet. Not many people fought over them. Everyone knew what these 10 dragon pillars meant. The most intense battles would occur there. Without strength, one would only fall in the qualifiers if they tried to compete for it. In the tower where the 8 noble clans were at, the 8 heirs of the noble clans stood carefree at the top floor. They were all very calm. For everyone else, it was extremely difficult to obtain one of the 400 spots. However, these 8 people did not care about them at all. They did not worry about it. Brothers, I, Qian Wen, will make my move first. You can continue chatting. A man in gorgeous sky blue embroidered robes among the 8 noble clan heirs smiled faintly, performing a cupped fist salute before he left. Shoo. It was unknown if it was a coincidence, but when he left, another hole appeared in the thick, dark clouds above. A beam of dazzling golden light, like a sharp sword, descended from the sky. Soon, out of the 8 noble clans, only 2 were left, the Bai clan's Bai Qi and the Sima clan's Sima Lingxuan. These 2 were the first and second ranks of the previous 5-nation youth competition. Every time a noble clan scion jumped off, a resplendent beam of light would descend from the sky. When attentive people noticed the coincidence, they were amazed. Sima Lingxuan was tall and slender. He had sharp facial features and eyes like stars, like he was the work of superb craftsmanship. There were certain persons in the world who were extraordinary from birth. Even in a sea of people, they would be easily picked out with one glance. Without a doubt, Sima Lingxuan was one such person. When he stood there, everyone felt a heavy atmosphere, a strong pressure in their hearts. Bai Qi took a deep breath and calmed himself. He stood before the railing and prepared to jump down. Sima Lingxuan tilted his body a little and looked at Bai Qi. He said, Bai Qi, I heard that you have fully comprehended the hardest martial technique in your Bai clan, the 4-season saber technique. In the past 3,000 years, you are the first person under the age of 30 to practice this saber technique to great perfection. Bai Qi did not confirm or deny the rumor. He smiled gently and asked, what's wrong? Are you afraid? You must be joking. Sima Lingxuan laughed loudly. Bai Qi, I only hope that you will not lose as badly as you did the last time. Give me a little bit of pressure. After Sima Lingxuan finished speaking, he laughed loudly again before jumping onto the railings. Then, he stared at the tallest of the 400 dragon pillars, exuding a strong aura. Hoo! A boundless wind immediately blew from the distance, making Sima Lingxuan's clothes flutter about noisily. When Sima Lingxuan's aura reached its peak, he pushed off heavily against the railings and flew directly towards the tallest dragon pillar. Pooh! 8 dazzling beams of golden light descended from the sky, encasing Sima Lingxuan in the middle, aiding him as he moved in the air. Damn it! The divine light is helping him. How strong exactly is Sima Lingxuan? Such a strange phenomenon immediately attracted the attention of all the cultivators in the Ring of Peaks. Bai Qi clenched his right fist tightly. He had an unsightly expression on his face. Although he had obtained the second rank in the last 5-nation youth competition, he had not lasted more than 10 moves against Sima Lingxuan. Sima Lingxuan had managed to climb to the peak without any pressure at all. Sima Lingxuan, the four-season saber technique is not as simple as you think it is. This time, I, Bai Qi, will regain the glory that belongs to me. Bai Qi pushed off the floor and soared into the air. Unexpectedly, his target was also the tallest dragon pillar. 4 beams of golden light descended from the sky, but they did not move together with Bai Qi. This was very different from what happened with Sima Lingxuan. After 5 or 6 minutes, no one had managed to climb onto a dragon pillar yet. Amidst the saber lights and sword lights, several cultivators had fallen, injured. There were many miserable cries. Those who were unfortunate suffered from many sneak attacks. They would probably meet with a violent death. Xiao Chen looked around in the crowd. Soon, he had a rough idea of how he was going to get a spot. He fixed his gaze on a dragon pillar at the periphery. Shoo! Xiao Chen pushed off heavily against the floor before shooting out like an arrow. Instantly, 8 holes appeared in the dark clouds. It looked like 8 beams of lights would descend. However, for some reason, the holes that opened instantly mended. Of course, no one managed to notice this tiny detail. Xiao Chen went far away from the center, where the most intense battles were taking place. Instead, he headed to the periphery, to the most unremarkable dragon pillar. Even so, there were 30 people fighting over this dragon pillar. The battle around the dragon pillar was unusually fierce. The top of the dragon pillar was empty, no one dared to step onto it. The people who had stood on it earlier suffered from a group attack and had not lasted long. Shoo! Just as the 30 people fought among themselves, a figure suddenly appeared on the dragon pillar. That person was dressed in white and a long, slender saber hung at his waist. His expression was calm, like nothing could cause him to panic. Where did this brat come from? How dare he steal our spot? How reckless! Attack him! When the 30 people fighting among themselves saw Xiao Chen standing on the dragon pillar, they stopped fighting without a word and sent all sorts of attacks at Xiao Chen. The weakest of this group was a martial king, most of them were peak superior grade martial kings. There were a couple of them who were half-step martial monarchs. Coincidentally, the first person to attack was a half-step martial monarch, the breaking saber gate Song Qing. When he saw Xiao Chen standing on the dragon pillar, he smiled coldly to himself. This brat is merely a great Qin nation disciple. Does he really think that just anyone can stand on this pillar? Even I, Song Qing, am not in a rush to stand on it. It is not that easy to endure the focused attacks of the group for 1 minute. I have to wait until the essence of the group is more or less exhausted before I have the confidence of standing on it for 1 minute. Bang! Lights of all sorts of colors struck the white figure and exploded. Amidst the chaos, that figure was blasted into dust. Is he dead? Everyone felt it was somewhat strange, it seemed too easy. However, after looking carefully, they discovered that not even a corpse was left. Only then did they relax. Someone laughed loudly and said, "He can't even defend against a single wave of attacks, yet he came over to participate in this event. What a reckless fool. Is that so?" At this moment, a cold laugh came from behind the crowd. When everyone turned around, they saw the figure that they eliminated behind them. The white-robed youth with a saber at his waist and a calm expression unexpectedly appeared once again. Wukui breaks the heavens. Xiao Chen could not be bothered to speak nonsense with this group of people. He drew his saber and immediately executed the Wukui saber technique, sending out a beam of resplendent light right away. The cultivators who looked back originally thought that Xiao Chen had been blasted to dust earlier. Faced with such a strong attack, they were caught off guard. About 10 odd people in a straight line had their essence shields shattered by the beam of light. Then, they fell. The weaker cultivators vomited blood as they screamed miserably on their way down. This dragon pillar was at least 2 kilometers tall. If they could not regulate their essence and dropped from this height, they would die or be severely injured. In an instant, Xiao Chen eliminated half of the 30-man group. All he had used was a small trick, the life bestowal spell. This helped him save a lot of energy. He used less essence and did not have to reveal his trump cards. Hidden in the crowd, Song Qing revealed a look of horror in his eyes. He had not expected Xiao Chen to be so strong. This Xiao Chen came from the Great Qin nation, the weakest of the 5 great nations. Song Qing originally thought that Xiao Chen was just an ordinary genius. However, the moment Xiao Chen made a move, he instantly defeated 10-odd people. With Song Qing's insight, he immediately understood that Xiao Chen was not as simple as he had thought. Xiao Chen was as strong as him, possibly even stronger. I absolutely cannot let this fellow enter the arena battles. A look of disdain flashed in Song Qing's eyes. Then he hid behind the group and shouted, "Everyone, attack together. We can't let this fellow snatch away our spot. This person is too despicable. Unexpectedly, he sneak attacked us." Song Qing shouted very loudly, but he retreated to the back of the group. He did not have any intention of fighting. Kill. The spots were limited, no one was willing to give up. Even though they knew that Xiao Chen was stronger than any of them, they would not give up easily. Xiao Chen glanced coldly at the retreating Song Qing. Then, he ignored Song Qing and focused on this group of genius cultivators before him. The participants in the competition were all cultivators who were outstanding talents and had their own trump cards to play. They were not those martial kings that cultivated trashy cultivation techniques. After thinking about it, Xiao Chen concluded that fighting against the 10-odd peak superior grade martial kings would not be a very wise move. He looked around and locked on to the strongest 3 people. Xiao Chen had to establish his might to completely scare this group of people away. Azure Dragon Tail Whip, Xiao Chen shouted, and his body moved in a strange arc while in midair. A realistic dragon tail appeared and swept across the space, creating a boundless wind. Then, he appeared in the middle of the group. Suddenly, Xiao Chen's clear eyes turned scarlet and a boundless killing intent poured out. The pressure on the peak superior grade martial king whom he locked onto immediately increased. Massacre, hate, rage, all sorts of negative emotions erupted in his opponent's mind. His opponent's movements turned sluggish. By the time that opponent reacted, he discovered that Xiao Chen's pitch-black saber was already before his neck. His eyes immediately widened in horror. Xiao Chen twisted his hand around, using the back of the saber to strike his opponent's neck. They were not mortal enemies, there was no need for Xiao Chen to kill him. It would not be a good thing to offend the sects behind his opponents. The strongest of the 3 martial kings barely managed to survive. However, he screamed miserably. The essence on the back of the saber defeated him and he fell to the ground. While all these took a while to describe, the incident itself, from when Xiao Chen executed the Azure Dragon Tail Whip to when his opponent fell, had actually taken only a moment. It happened so fast that the others could not keep up with Xiao Chen. The cultivators in front were still charging. Xiao Chen looked around and spotted the second strongest peak superior grade martial king. Then, he immediately used Wukui Shakes the Heavens. A purple divine Wukui tree descended from the sky. With the difference in strength, that martial king could only resist for a few breaths. Then, he was pressed down by the divine Wukui tree, falling into Dragon Sealing City. Only now did the rest of the people react. A wave of attacks was sent at Xiao Chen. There were all sorts of colored lights, states, and weapon chi. Given Xiao Chen's strength, if he endured this head-on, he would still suffer from significant internal injuries. His figure wavered as he executed the roaming dragon's 9 transformations, becoming 9 figures in the next moment. Bang! 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 Between the shock waves and explosions, some of the clones were instantly blasted into nothing. However, Xiao Chen's main body took advantage of the chaos to arrive before the 3rd peak superior grade martial king. This time, Xiao Chen did not use any martial technique. He simply clashed weapons with that person. The instant the weapons came in contact, a surging essence exploded forth. The gap in strength was too great. The other party's weapon shattered into countless pieces. The web behind his thumb and forefinger immediately split open, and blood trickled out of his mouth. Xiao Chen managed to defeat 3 people with 3 moves. Furthermore, these 3 people were the strongest of their group. The other people promptly stopped what they were doing and carefully retreated. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and said calmly to the group, "Go somewhere else, this dragon pillar is mine." Xiao Chen's calm tone did not leave any room for doubt. Furthermore, he had shown himself to be strong. In the group's perspective, he was unfathomable. Hu Kai. Just at this moment, a superior-grade martial king suddenly executed an ambush. He took advantage of the moment when Xiao Chen was speaking to silently sneak behind Xiao Chen and attack. That person's skills in concealment were impeccable. Despite moving so fast, there was no wind at all. He also did not leak any killing chi. It was a perfect sneak attack. However, he met Xiao Chen, a cultivator that could not be judged with common sense. Breaking armor. Seizing the heart. Xiao Chen seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. He quickly turned around and instantly executed the final 2 moves of the Dragon Claw Fist. The breaking armor fist broke the opponent's essence shield and the claw seizing the heart pierced his chest. In an instant, a person, who was just alive and was about to succeed in his sneak attack, died and fell to the ground. "Let's go. We can't stay here any longer." When the others saw the situation, they were frightened. They no longer wanted to try their luck and scattered immediately. As for Song Qing, that fellow had already run away the moment he saw that things were not good. Xiao Chen could not be bothered with this person. If he managed to get one of the 400 spots, Xiao Chen would meet him in the arena battles. If he could not even pass the qualifier round, there was no need for Xiao Chen to even care about him. Everything was calm and quiet as Xiao Chen stood on the dragon pillar. This time he was really standing on it. 1 minute was just 60 breaths. In a situation where no one disturbed him, it would pass very quickly. 10, 9, 8, 7. Xiao Chen counted down the time in his mind. By the time others saw the phenomenon here, it was too late. Rumble, rumble. The tall pillar below Xiao Chen started shaking. The carving of the dragon around the stone pillar suddenly came to life. Boom. The coiling stone dragon roared ferociously. Every one of its scales gave off a golden light as it soared into the sky, rushing into the clouds. The dragon's roar reverberated throughout the entire place. The huge dragon tore through the thick dark clouds and flew to a mysterious faraway location. A golden beam of light descended from the distant sky, enveloping Xiao Chen on the pillar. Someone succeeded. Who is it? Is it someone from the 8 noble clans? Or is it one of the successors of the 10 great sects? Who is this person? I have never heard of him before. He seems unfamiliar. Could this be his first time participating in the 5-nation youth competition? That can't be. Unexpectedly, it is a new person who took the first spot. Xiao Chen, who was within the light, immediately attracted the attention of the countless spectators. Everyone was surprised. First Elder. Xiao Chen succeeded. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's second elder said excitedly, revealing a joyful smile. Zhang Kai remained comparatively calm. He smiled faintly and said, "Quality over quantity. We just need the elites." When the breaking saber gates Due heard that, he felt very uncomfortable. His sect's disciple had just mocked the other party for coming from a weak place earlier. However, the disciple of the sect Song Qing had mocked managed to be the first to obtain a spot. As for Song Qing, he had been frightened away by Xiao Chen. He did not even have the courage to fight. The golden beam of light lasted for a minute before it disappeared. The instant the beam of light disappeared, the smooth stone pillar slid back into the ground. Within 1 second, the 2-kilometer-tall pillar had retracted underground. Xiao Chen, on the stone pillar, finally experienced something similar to a theme park ride from his previous life. When Xiao Chen took in his surroundings, he noticed that the buildings around him were neatly arranged, like they had been built in some sort of pattern. The architecture of the dragon ceiling city gave off an ancient ambiance. The vast and heavy aura of the place made one feel, without a doubt, that this place was ancient. Xiao Chen took a look at the dragon-shaped jade pendant hanging at his waist. From the previously dark jade, it was now bright. There was a miniature golden dragon in the translucent jade pendant. It looked very interesting as it slowly swam around. Pooh! Pooh! Suddenly, a cool breeze tousled the hair on Xiao Chen's forehead, which was wrapped in a blue strip of cloth, revealing his handsome face. When he looked up, a middle-aged man in yellow robes appeared unexpectedly in front of him. The cool breeze came from this person. Xiao Chen was startled. If not for the cool breeze, he would not have noticed the presence of this person. That was to say, it would be easy for this person to silently kill him, if he wanted to. It was likely that this person had purposely sent out that cool breeze. Xiao Chen did not dare to disrespect someone with such cultivation. He performed a cupped fist salute and said, "May I ask who this senior is?" The yellow-robed middle-aged man glanced at Xiao Chen's dragon-shaped jade pendant and smiled faintly. "I am part of the 5-Nation Youth Competition's organizers. What is your name and which sect did you come from?" It turned out that he was one of the organizers. No wonder he had such a high cultivation. Xiao Chen nodded and said, "My humble self is Xiao Chen. I am from the Great Qin Nation's Heavenly Saber Pavilion." The yellow-robed middle-aged man thought a while before saying, "Come with me. I will bring you to the residence for the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The arena battles will begin 3 days later. You can rest in these few days. If you have nothing to do, you can wander around the city." The two moved very fast as they leapt across tall buildings. In a few breaths, they arrived at a small courtyard. There were only a few rooms in the courtyard. It was very simple. In fact, crude would be a better word to describe this place. The yellow-robed middle-aged man explained, "The style of the courtyard is dependent on the strength of the sect and the results of their disciples in previous 5-Nation Youth competitions. If there are no objections, I will be taking my leave first." Xiao Chen indicated that he understood. When considering the entire continent, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was not a really strong sect. They also did not have many disciples who had performed exceptionally in past competitions. However, in this 5-Nation Youth competition, Xiao Chen would definitely change the situation, preventing the future disciples of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion from suffering such wretched treatment. Xiao Chen managed to be the first to qualify because of the choice he had made. The people as strong as Xiao Chen were all fighting for a seated spot. The successors of the Great Jin Nation's 10 great sects and 8 noble clans, as well as the top disciples of the strong sects of the 4 nations were all gathered around the 10 tallest dragon pillars. The heavenly sword gates Ding Fengqiu, the beast-taming abodes Zuo Mo, the myriad fiend palaces Mu Shinya and Chu Mu, and the 1,000-sword pavilions Sha Xian were all hanging around, carefully testing one another out. They would not initiate a life or death battle, they would only probe one another. Hence, they were even more cautious. Even after an hour and a half, no one attempted to stand on any of the 10 tallest dragon pillars. There were 2 elimination rounds in the arena battles. Each round required a participant to fight 20 matches. In each round, 100 people would be eliminated. Only after the 2 rounds of elimination would the finals begin. The seeded participants did not have to participate in the first round of eliminations and could directly enter the second round. This meant having 20 matches fewer to fight. Such an advantage naturally made others envious. The first seed had even more benefits: exemption from the 2 elimination rounds and direct entry into the finals. Aside from this, becoming a seeded participant was also a way to gain fame. Simply put, it was a fight for pride. Xiao Chen had his own ideas. In his opinion, as long as he managed himself well and there were no opponents as strong as him in the first 20 matches, he could avoid revealing his strength. Furthermore, the seeded participants would be the focus of attention. They would be the ones the others would research properly. There would be some unexpected benefits to keeping a low profile. The one with the last laugh was the true winner. Xiao Chen was not in a rush to rest in the courtyard. He leapt onto the roof, sitting down there to observe the fight for the first seed. Sima Lingxuan was the Sima clan's most outstanding genius in the past few thousand years. In the previous 5-nation youth competition, he was the undisputed champion. Xiao Chen was quite curious as to what he was like. Surrounded by the 8 beams of golden light, Sima Lingxuan went to the tallest dragon pillar without the slightest scruple. His eyes glinted with unwavering confidence. He behaved like the tallest dragon pillar already belonged to him, no one else could stand on it. He, Sima Lingxuan, was the first seed. This strong self-confidence and his strength combined to create an extremely oppressive atmosphere. When regular cultivators felt this, they would immediately adopt a mindset of inferiority. Before they fought him, they had already lost. Xiao Chen muttered, "What strong self-confidence. This is an unwavering confidence in his own strength. His confidence makes him stronger and his strength made him more confident. This positive loop results in this unique atmosphere." Sima Lingxuan was indeed remarkable. However, once he received a blow to his confidence, he would have difficulty climbing out of the abyss of failure. This was the principle of becoming brittle when something became overly hard. One could be self-confident but should not have blind confidence. In the 3,000 Great Realms, the Sky Dome realm, which the Tianwu continent was in, was just an ordinary realm. There definitely were stronger geniuses in the other great realms. Although one was self-confident, they had to remember to maintain a low profile. Only when they truly stood at the peak could they then look down on everyone else. This was Xiao Chen's opinion in his principle of life. Thus, he did not fight to obtain the spot of the first seed, there was no need for him to. Suddenly, Xiao Chen sighed. He smiled faintly and said, "If only someone would fight with Sima Lingxuan for the first seed. That way, I will be able to see how strong he is." High in the sky, Sima Lingxuan looked at Bai Qi, who was across the dragon pillar. He smiled gently and said, "Bai Qi, are you in a rush to taste defeat again? The arena battles have not started yet. If your mental state is unstable, it will influence how much of your strength you can bring out later." Hearing the absolute confidence in Sima Lingxuan's words, Bai Qi said sullenly, "My mental state will only be truly impacted if I retreat without a fight. If I can accept it, then so what if I get defeated?" In the previous 5-nation youth competition, Bai Qi was the undisputed second rank. He was also a rare genius of the Bai clan. Now, he was going up against Sima Lingxuan. Look, Bai Qi is going to fight with Sima Lingxuan. He lost in the last 5-nation youth competition. I wonder if he can turn things around this year. I heard that Bai Qi has practiced the hardest martial technique in the Bai clan, the 4-season saber technique, to great perfection. Now, he is a lot stronger. I heard that the 4-season saber technique was obtained by the Bai clan's ancestor from an unnamed ancient grave. After he obtained it, no one could understand it until the absolute genius of the Bai clan, Bai Shuiye, completely comprehended it and left guidance to the Bai clan descendants. Indeed, the 4-season saber technique is incredibly strong. It is known as the strongest martial technique under heaven-ranked martial techniques. Even though Bai Shuiye had left guidance on his comprehension, I have never heard of anyone comprehending Bai Shuiye's thoughts before the age of 30. Who knows, maybe Bai Qi can rely on this 4-season saber technique to wipe away his previous humiliation. All the cultivators in the Ring of Peaks immediately became excited. Here was this scene again after so many years. A battle between these two would be akin to one between a dragon and a tiger, it would definitely be very exciting. Sima Lingxuan smiled at Bai Qi and said, "It is said that the saber intent of a bladesman is stronger than the sword intent of a swordsman before they reach martial sage. Bai Qi, I will not bully you with my higher cultivation. If your saber intent can defeat my sword intent, I will let you have the first seed." The moment Sima Lingxuan finished speaking, everyone was shocked and flabbergasted. Saber intent was at least 10 times harder to form than sword intent. However, once saber intent was formed, it was mightier than sword intent of the same level. Only when one reached martial stage would sword intent and saber intent have souls of their own, bridging the gap between them. Bai Qi's black pupils constricted as he said, "Are you for real?" Strong self-confidence flashed on Sima Lingxuan's handsome face. He laughed loudly and said, "Of course. Since I am going to defeat you anyway, I should make sure you are convinced of your defeat. I have to defeat you with the aspect that you are the proudest of. Otherwise, what is the point? How arrogant." Bai Qi was truly angered now. Although he was weaker than Sima Lingxuan, he did not feel the gap was that much. However, Sima Lingxuan was too overbearing. The respective strengths of saber intent and sword intent had been clearly defined since ancient times. While saber intent was harder to form, it was mightier than sword intent. Nevertheless, he was arrogant enough to want to compete using only sword intent and saber intent. He was completely looking down on Bai Qi. Xiao Chen, who was on a roof in Dragon Ceiling City below, felt it was strange as well. Saber intent being stronger was a widely acknowledged fact. Back when the Bloody Bladesman, Sun Guangquan, was able to push the inferior grade martial monarch Northern Sea Alliance elder so hard when he had only just become a martial monarch himself, he succeeded due to his saber intent. A small perfection saber intent could increase a cultivator's offensive power by 30%. When one became a martial monarch, they would become much stronger. By then, a 30% increase would be even more horrifying. Saber intent would give a bladesman the ability to fight those of a higher cultivation realm than them. Xiao Chen himself was a bladesman, so he understood this better. He muttered to himself, "Is this fellow really arrogant or is he really that strong?" Bai Qi drew his saber in rage. A surging saber intent immediately surged out. The long, slender saber trembled incessantly. Combined with his powerful strength, when the saber intent spread out, all the sabers of the bladesmen in the Ring of Peaks trembled slightly. The pure saber intent burst forth from the saber's edge and turned into a sharp, formless energy wave as it flew towards Sima Lingxuan. The sharp, formless energy wave represented Bai Qi's rage, his pride, and many other things. There was no point in expressing his hate in words. So, Bai Qi used this powerful saber intent to decide everything, to prove that he, Bai Qi, was not as weak as Sima Lingxuan made him out to be. When the cultivators in the Ring of Peaks felt how strong that saber intent was, they were full of praise. The bladesmen in the crowd had the deepest impression of it. When they saw it, their hearts were filled with respect and anticipation. The sword arrived in the world first, before the saber. Although the strength of a bladesman or a swordsman would depend on the individual, due to historical reasons, the status of a bladesman fell short of that of a swordsman. This was clear from the number of swordsmen and bladesmen in the Tianwu continent. Furthermore, a truly unrivaled bladesman had not appeared for many years already. Most of the experts in the world were swordsmen. The Thunder Emperor, who had become famous 1,000 years ago, had used the sword. The current strongest genius, Sima Lingxuan, also used the sword. The saber had remained silent for too long. Now, the great Jin nation's Bai Qi was the most famous bladesman in this world. When Bai Qi pointed his saber at Sima Lingxuan, he was also shouldering the hopes of all bladesmen. They hoped that a true bladesman would appear, one unrivaled in the world. On the roof, Xiao Chen also nodded. He said softly, "Based on the range of the saber intent, it should have reached small perfection. Let's see how Sima Lingxuan deals with this." Sima Lingxuan did not evince any surprise on his handsome face. He smiled and said, "You only started to figure out saber intent a year ago. You have managed to reach small perfection from there in such a short time. Pretty good. Unfortunately, I, Sima Lingxuan, am your opponent." Sima Lingxuan exuded a strong self-confidence. That self-confidence seemed to condense into an aura. The air currents around could not withstand this aura as it moved about wildly. This resulted in a strong wind that made Sima Lingxuan's clothes and hair flutter about. Above the vast dragon-sealing city, all the geniuses in the air seemed to have shrunk before this self-confidence. Sima Lingxuan was silently telling everyone that even though countless stars shone in the sky, he, Sima Lingxuan, was the brightest one. He drew his sword and a bright light appeared. At this moment, all the strong winds blowing immediately gathered around the sword. The surging sword intent slowly grew. Soon, it became a small perfection sword intent. Then, it continued rising, becoming a 40% comprehended sword intent. Just when everyone thought that it was about to stop, the sword intent ramped up. 50%, 60%. Sima Lingxuan's comprehension unexpectedly reached 60%. If it improved by another 10%, it would be a great perfection sword intent, a level that many of the older generation failed to achieve. He launched a sharp, solid energy wave from the sword's edge, which instantly tore apart the formless energy wave of Bai Qi's saber intent. Fu Si. After Sima Lingxuan's sword intent tore apart the saber intent, it dimmed slightly. However, it maintained its form and sharpness. Ka-ca. When the sword intent was about to strike Bai Qi, Sima Lingxuan sheathed his sword. The sharp sword intent immediately scattered and turned into a formless sword wind. The few unfortunate cultivators struck by this sword wind suffered significant injuries. The cultivators in the towers on the Ring of Peaks were silent. They had known that Sima Lingxuan was strong. However, they had not expected him to be this strong. Despite being from the same generation, he smashed apart his opponent's saber intent. A small perfection saber intent was saber intent comprehended to 30%. However, Sima Lingxuan's sword intent was comprehended to 60%, double his opponent's. The higher comprehension led to a qualitative change. Although Bai Qi's saber intent was strong, he lost to Sima Lingxuan. 60% comprehended sword intent. Bai Qi's loss was not undeserved. Sima Lingxuan, indeed, lives up to his name. He truly deserves the title of #1 genius. The first seed definitely belongs to him. He has a strong self-confidence, excellent talent, and support from a noble clan. He is bound to have an extraordinary future. I believe the Sima clan will end up getting a 4th consecutive first rank. If this keeps up, they will probably become the leader of the noble clans. Many cultivators in the Ring of Peaks sighed. They were full of praise when they looked at Sima Lingxuan, who was encased in light. At the very edge of the 400 dragon pillars, the Eastern Sea's little dragon king, Xuanyuan Zantian, watched as Sima Lingxuan defeated Bai Qi with sword intent. Xuanyuan Zantian revealed a faint smile and said softly, "Interesting. I have made the right decision to come to the 5-nation youth competition. The level here is much higher than the Boundless Seas elite competition. I finally found someone who can allow me to bring out my full power." People are saying that Bai Qi's defeat was well deserved. However, I feel that it is too undeserved. Ha ha. This Sima Lingxuan is not just strong, his plots are fearsome as well. Seeing Xuanyuan Zantian's distraction, the participants competing for the same dragon pillar all smiled coldly. You fool. To think that you got distracted at this moment. Their weapons vibrated as they sent fierce attacks at Xuanyuan Zantian. Bang. Recovering his wits, Xuanyuan Zantian smiled faintly. He quickly swung his heavenly war halberd and an azure flood dragon circled around the halberd and burst out. The participants who tried to sneak attack Xuanyuan Zantian had their weapons blasted back. Hee hee. The game is up. Little friends, I no longer have the patience to keep playing with you. Xuanyuan Zantian laughed coldly. Then, before the participants' horrified eyes, he swung his halberd about. A strong dragon-shaped energy exploded. Unable to endure even one move, the participants fell to the ground after this. Behind the central, tallest dragon pillar, Bai Qi looked very stunned. After a while, he reacted and said furiously, "Sima Lingxuan, you did that on purpose." Sima Lingxuan laughed loudly and said fearlessly, "That's right. I did it on purpose. It is time to pay up after your loss. You can leave now. Bai Qi was not resigned, he felt a frustration that he could not express. However, all he could do was to leave helplessly and compete for the other 9 seated spots. The others could not make head or tail out of the exchange between Sima Lingxuan and Bai Qi. However, Xiao Chen understood it clearly. The whole thing had been a trap laid down by Sima Lingxuan from the start. He knew how powerful the 4-season saber technique was. The Bai Qi now was completely different from the Bai Qi from the previous 5-nation youth competition. It would not be easy for Sima Lingxuan to defeat the current Bai Qi. So he purposely suggested competing with their weapon intents. Ordinary people knew that saber intent was stronger than sword intent. However, Sima Lingxuan knew that there was more to it than that. Hence, to force Bai Qi to accept such a contest, Sima Lingxuan had said all those things in front of everyone. Even though Bai Qi knew that something was wrong, he had to go head on against him. Furthermore, Bai Qi felt that his saber intent might still be stronger than Sima Lingxuan's sword intent, so he walked into the trap. This resulted in everyone seeing Sima Lingxuan easily defeating Bai Qi again, which caused Sima Lingxuan's self-confidence to grow stronger. However, in the end, this was an open conspiracy and not a hidden one. Sima Lingxuan had indeed defeated Bai Qi with his strength. No matter how much resentment Bai Qi felt, he had lost this fight. The layman watched the exciting scene, and the experienced watched the tricks behind it. From the moment Sima Lingxuan made this play, Xiao Chen gained a rough understanding of his strength. Although Sima Lingxuan's sword intent was powerful, when he sheathed his sword, he could not properly prevent the sword intent from flying around chaotically. Xiao Chen had definitely felt Sima Lingxuan try to control it. If Sima Lingxuan had not, the sword wind that had flown around would have been mightier, enough to kill the cultivators who were struck. Xiao Chen thought to himself, he is probably able to control the sword intent only at 50% comprehension. Forcibly raising it to 60% is likely to be his limit. Sima Lingxuan may be strong, but he is not strong to the point of invincibility. His strongest aspect is probably his horrifying self-confidence. The fights for the other dragon pillars had not stopped while Sima Lingxuan and Bai Qi fought each other. However, the crowd only paid attention to the two of them. At this moment, some of the battles for the dragon pillars had concluded. Some people were standing firmly on top of their dragon pillar. Some were excited and some were calm as they waited for the golden dragon to soar up. After a great round of elimination, the true elites under the sky would emerge one by one. Rumble, rumble. A minute slowly trickled by. The dragons under these people started to move slowly, about to soar at any moment. However, as the dragons were on the verge of taking to the sky, they suddenly stopped moving, as if time had frozen. The dragon sculptures that came to life stilled. They seemed to sense something terrifying about to be born. They did not dare to do as they pleased. The participants who succeeded could not help but be startled. They quickly looked towards the center. They saw that Sima Lingxuan was already standing on the tallest dragon pillar. The scales of the huge dragon coiled around that pillar immediately turned golden, and the carving transformed into a golden dragon that soared into the sky. The great dragon is indeed the great dragon. How could the little dragons move before the great dragon did? Some of the cultivators who had seen previous 5-nation youth competitions commented with smiles on their faces. These people were not too surprised. This was how it was in every 5-nation youth competition. As long as someone stood on the tallest pillar, the other dragon pillars would not have their dragons fly up, even if there were participants on them. This was because the dragon of the tallest dragon pillar was the king of dragons. When the king came out, the other dragons had to give way. Sima Lingxuan, who was encased in golden light, looked at the flabbergasted group of people. His lips curled up and the confidence in his heart grew even stronger. Years ago, Sima Lingxuan had proudly stood here. No one had been his match. Now, with the era of geniuses upon them, he, Sima Lingxuan, stood here again, despite the assemblage of geniuses. Sima Lingxuan had to prove that even though this was the era of geniuses and a great age, he, Sima Lingxuan, could still stand at the peak. He would become the main character of this age. Carrying the luck of the Sky Dome realm, he would go to the Kunlun realm and trample the geniuses of the other great realms. Only he, Sima Lingxuan, could be the main character. Only he, Sima Lingxuan, could stand here. Only he, Sima Lingxuan, was qualified to gain the luck of the Sky Dome realm and fight with heaven. Roar, roar, roar. Just as Sima Lingxuan's strong self-confidence spread through the skies of Dragon Sealing City and created a strong wind, a resonant dragon roar resounded in every corner of Dragon Sealing City and the area above it. That dragon roar shook heaven and earth and instantly scattered the wind caused by Sima Lingxuan's aura. Another huge golden dragon soared into the air. Although that dragon was smaller than Sima Lingxuan's dragon, when they competed with their auras, it did not give way. It resisted the other dragon's royal aura, quickly soaring into the sky. Xuanyuan Zontian stood on a pillar. He wore purple robes with flood dragon designs on it. He wore a purple cape and held the heavenly war halberd in his hand. Seeing Sima Lingxuan look over with astonishment on his face, Xuanyuan Zontian revealed a mocking expression on his regal face. Xuanyuan Zontian did not show any fear at the sight of him who had just defeated Bai Qi. The golden dragon above Xuanyuan Zontian quickly chased and caught up to the huge dragon. They were neck and neck as they broke through the dark clouds. What's going on? Unexpectedly, this little dragon dares to compete with the great dragon. This is strange. I have never heard of something like this happening above Dragon Sealing City. Unexpectedly, a little dragon does not fear the king of dragons. The calm expressions of the cultivators in the Ring of Peaks immediately melted into panic. That is impossible. Something like this cannot happen. The king of dragons is a true dragon. How can the little dragon dare to fight with it? A Sima clan elder shouted hoarsely. Sima Lingxuan was from the Sima clan. He was their hope of becoming the #1 noble clan. They had to snatch the luck of this great age. The Sima clan could not afford to have anything unexpected happen. This was the most crucial moment for them. Just when the crowd were exclaiming that it was impossible, a very old man snorted coldly. What is impossible? For it to be able to fight with the great dragon, naturally, it is a great dragon as well. It is just two dragons fighting. In the history of Dragon Sealing City, 9 dragons have fought at the same time above the city before. There were some people who recognized Xuanyuan Zontian and said, "That is the Eastern Sea's little dragon king, Xuanyuan Zontian. He is the top genius of the boundless sea. Indeed, wherever a true dragon goes, he will shine brightly. Even after he came to the Tianwu continent, his sharpness is undiminished." In the face of Xuanyuan Zontian's mocking, Sima Lingxuan quickly recovered his calm after some initial astonishment. His strong self-confidence precluded him feeling any pressure, he just felt somewhat surprised. "Xuanyuan Zontian, I have heard of your name long ago. The reputation of the Eastern Sea's little dragon king is well deserved. However, this world has space for only one true dragon. When the arena battles begin, I will personally slay a dragon." Xuanyuan Zontian withdrew his aura and laughed loudly. "I'm afraid that not only will you not slay the dragon, you will get slayed yourself in the process. You best not run into me in the arena battles. Otherwise, with your strong self-confidence, when you sink into the valley of defeat, you will never be able to turn the situation around again." Boom. Just as the two of them were bickering, the two dragons fighting an intense battle in the sky broke through the dark clouds at the same time. Golden beams of light descended. With a shoo sound, their stone pillars retracted into the ground, descending to Dragon Sealing City. Roar, roar, roar. At this moment, the frozen stone dragons revived. The 10 odd little dragons that had been suppressed for so long soared into the sky. They gave off ferocious roars that reverberated throughout the mountains. The scene of a group of dragons soaring into the sky was very grand. This was especially so with the 10 odd beams of golden light descending at the same time. This was a great eye-opener that could not be forgotten easily. Following that, golden dragons would soar into the sky and break through the dark clouds at every moment. Xiao Chen, who was on the roof, had already lost all his patience for watching. Now, while the fight for dragon pillars went on, he casually looked around the city. The dragon ceiling city was the only perfectly preserved ancient city. Much of the architecture unique to the ancient era still remained. This was an eye-opener as well. After 7 or 8 minutes, 2 figures came flying over. A staff of the 5-nation youth competition was leading Lu Sufeng over. Based on his dispirited look, he must have failed. I failed. There were too many geniuses. I only realized that I am nothing after arriving here. Lu Sufeng sighed as he shook his head and looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled gently and said, "Don't be discouraged. Watch this 5-nation youth competition carefully." Lu Sufeng nodded seriously and said, "Definitely. Now that a great age is here, I do not wish to stagnate." After another 7 to 8 minutes, Mu Heng and Zhang Lai arrived as well. Xiao Chen was not too surprised to learn that they also failed. However, the 2 of them did not seem disappointed. Originally, they were here just to widen their horizons and had not harbored too much hope. With the 4 of them gathered together, they were not too bored. They started to casually chat about some things. Mu Heng glanced at Xiao Chen and said, "Before I came down, I took a look at senior brother Morong's situation. He is really ambitious. He was trying to obtain a seated spot. Until now, he has not had anything to show yet." Xiao Chen smiled calmly. With his strength, it would be hard for him to get a seated spot. However, he should not have any problems qualifying. "Have you guys seen senior sister Yun? What's her situation like?" "Ha ha, I am here." Right after Xiao Chen spoke, melodious laughter sounded in their ears. Yun Kexin, who was in a light-colored flowery dress, was smiling broadly. When Xiao Chen saw that Yun Kexin's smile was different from the rest, he did not even have to guess to know whether she qualified or not. "Did you qualify?" Lu Sufeng and the others asked. Yun Kexin nodded gently, still smiling. "I was lucky enough to qualify. 3 days later, I can take part in the arena battles on the Wind Cloud Arena." Mu Heng and the others revealed envious expressions. However, they were all from the same sect, so there was no need to be jealous. They all performed cupped fist salutes and congratulated Yun Kexin. After chatting for a while, Lu Sufeng suddenly said, "Morong Chong lost." The group looked up and saw that the competition for the remaining 9 seeds had reached its climax. The one who defeated Morong Chong was the scion of the 8 noble clans Qian clan, Qian Wen. Of course, it was not a true defeat. The fight for the seated spot was not a life-and-death battle. The participants would not reveal their killing moves and trump cards so early. So they would retreat when things got difficult. Not long later, Morong Chong obtained a spot from a regular dragon pillar. Like Xiao Chen had said, he managed to qualify relatively easily. The resonant dragon roars resounded without end. Many golden dragons soared into the sky and descending beams of golden light filled the sky. Dragon Ceiling City, which had normally been dark for the past few millennia, was very bright and dazzling today. Time slowly went by, and the qualifiers of the 5-nation youth competition came to an end. Out of this somewhat desperate competition, 400 elites finally emerged. They only had to wait 3 days for the arena battles to start. Then, the true excitement of the 5-nation youth competition would officially begin. When the dark clouds in the sky were completely restored, the elders of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion finally arrived at the courtyard. Xiao Chen and the others, who were on the roof, jumped down immediately. Zhang Kai looked around at the wretched courtyard and sighed softly. "I have wronged you all. We were placed in this broken-down place because our Heavenly Saber Pavilion had declined too much over the years." The courtyard was indeed simple. With about 10 people here, everyone would be able to get a room to themselves. However, there was no personal backyard. It would not be very convenient if one wanted to cultivate at night. Of course, this was the rule of Dragon Sealing City. It was naturally fair. If you were strong, you would be able to get a luxurious courtyard. Take for example the 8 noble clans and 10 great sects of the Great Jin Nation. These groups of people would get much more lavish courtyards at the 5-nation youth competition. For them, not only would everyone get a small personal courtyard, there were also special cultivation rooms left from the ancient era to allow the participants to make their final preparations. Morong Chong said, "Everything will be fine after this 5-nation youth competition. In the future, the people of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion will not suffer like us again." Shen Manjin smiled and said, "Let's not talk about this first. There are many special cultivation grounds in Dragon Sealing City. The sect will pay for all your expenditures here." Zhang Kai stepped up and gave the 3 people who qualified a spatial ring each. Those who did not qualify got a wooden box. Xiao Chen extended his spiritual sense into the spatial ring and was startled. It had a lot of medial-grade spirit stones, a total of 400,000. With the 3 of them, that would amount to over 1,000,000 medial-grade spirit stones. It looked like the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had invested a lot in this 5-nation youth competition. However, Zhang Kai did not reveal any pained expression at all. It was already beyond his expectations that 3 people could qualify this time. One had to know that only 400 people in the entire continent could qualify. It was truly not easy for the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to obtain 3 spots. Even the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's longtime rival, the Misty Sword Sect, only obtained 2 spots. The Night Spirit Palace was worse off. Mu Chengshe had barely managed to obtain 1 spot. As for the other noble clans of the Great Qin Nation, aside from Duan Muqing, no one else qualified. Zhang Kai smiled gently and said, "Go rest for a while. There will be time for you to look around Dragon Sealing City. There are many fun things in the city." Night came early due to the heavy dark clouds covering the sky above Dragon Sealing City. After another 4 hours, it was completely dark. Xiao Chen gently pushed open his room door. Then, he leapt up and flew towards the ring of peaks. He used his spiritual sense to scan the area and discovered that many cultivators on the various peaks had the same intentions as he did. The arena battles were about to officially begin. Naturally, they had to sort out all the martial techniques that they learned. They could not relax too much. When Xiao Chen found a desolate peak, he paused in the air. After that, he quickly descended to a forest there that had level ground. Although a chill night wind blew strongly and Xiao Chen wore only a single layer of clothing, he did not feel too cold. After thinking for a while, he completely calmed himself. Then, he placed his right hand on the saber hilt and drew it. A surging saber intent immediately poured out and spread through the forest. Countless tornadoes appeared and picked up a large amount of fallen leaves. The saber intent slowly grew stronger. Soon, it reached small perfection. But it did not stop there, continuing to grow stronger. The 40% comprehended saber intent caused the tornadoes to elongate into a long line. The dead leaves on the line started spinning, becoming like sharp knives. The tornadoes kicked up an enormous amount of dust, creating a large cloud. The dead leaves looked like they could not endure the energy. They seemed likely to explode at any moment. However, they did not explode in the end, demonstrating Xiao Chen's perfect control. 50% comprehended saber intent. Strong winds blew and tiny cracks appeared on the dead leaves. 60% comprehended saber intent. A loud boom resounded as all the dead leaves exploded at the same time. The surging saber intent turned into countless saber winds launching out into the forest. Ka-ca! Ka-ca! The trees in the forest shattered. By the time the saber winds died down, all the trees in the forest had been chopped in half. If someone else saw this, they would be greatly astonished. Bai Qi's small perfection saber intent was already sufficient for him to stand out and be proud. However, the saber intent that Xiao Chen demonstrated reached 60% comprehension. He was a mere 10% short of reaching great perfection. As for the situation in the forest, Xiao Chen was not overly excited about it, maintaining his calm. If he forcibly raised his saber intent, he could reach 60% comprehension as well. That was no worse than Sima Lingxuan. However, it would be difficult for him to perfectly control it as he pleased. Xiao Chen felt like he was just needed one more step to gain perfect control and advance his saber intent to great perfection. However, this step was as difficult as scaling the heavens. He said softly, "My saber intent can only be considered as 40% comprehended. However, if I run into Sima Lingxuan, I can try going all in. There is no need for me to fear him." Sima Lingxuan had his strong self-confidence. Although Xiao Chen normally maintained a low profile, he did not consider himself weak. "Even if your aura is overwhelming and exploding with self-confidence, I do not fear you and can defeat you." Xiao Chen slowly moved about in the forest, practicing his martial techniques, the Wukui saber technique, the lightning tribulation saber technique, and the very strong four-season saber technique. A strong aura spread out in the forest and explosions resounded continuously. By the time he sheathed his saber, the flat forest had become riddled with holes, no longer level.